You can't do this. I feel the conflict within you. Let go of your hate.
You have not seen what I've seen.
Well, it's finally here. Amazon's highly anticipated show, albeit maybe not for the reasons that they had hoped. Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. But now having seen it, have the first 2 episodes of this series changed my previously held opinions of the flaws in its visual style? Unfortunately, no. It's only reaffirmed them, as Rings of Power gives its audience a complete visual failure for exactly the reasons I had outlined in my previous videos. It prioritizes style over substance, leading to poor framing choices that don't really tell a story and inconsistent lighting. Instead of being directly inspired by Tolkien's writings or even the writings of their own story, both the lighting structures and the camera angles seem to have been chosen not because of how they might present the story the best, but rather because they simply look interesting for the individual shot, ignoring the scene as a whole, which leaves these scenes feeling a bit hollow and empty. So let's take a look at the opening scene as an example. When focusing on young Galadriel making her paper boat, the camera is kept away at a distance on the opposite side of the stream with a longer lens for nearly every shot, giving more shallow depth of field for close-ups and a greater perceived speed of motion for when she's running in these wider shots. So these shots individually look decent enough, but they don't draw us into the character, which is what should be happening right now. As keeping the camera farther away from the actor subconsciously creates the feeling of distance from them with the audience. Let's compare this to a similar scene from the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, where the character we're meant to empathize with in this moment, Faramir, has the camera placed physically closer to him and with a wider lens. That closer proximity of the camera to the actor subconsciously creates a greater feeling of closeness to their character. Then, when his tormentor, his father, comes to confront him, we switch to a subjective angle from Faramir's point of view. Subjective angles aren't inherently point of view shots, but they take the perspective of the character, which also subtly pushes the idea that we as the audience have that feeling of closeness to him. So in reworking the scene, if we placed a shorter lens on the camera, had it placed physically closer to the actress and on her side of the stream, and then maybe switched it to have subjective shots from her point of view, seeing the other kids on the other side of the stream, we as the audience would at least feel a bit closer to her character as a result. Now, I also don't think the choice of having her turn around and assault the kid helps garner any sympathy with the audience, but let's move on from now.
Use your footing again.
So now let's take a look at the scene between Galadriel and Elrond. On the surface, each one of their close-ups looks well shot, but taken as a whole, you'll notice that the light source changes between these shots, so as to give both of these characters a very beautiful looking but inconsistent hair light. So in staying true to the original light source that had been established, they actually could have had a more compelling scene, and one that visibly showed the drama being played out. So if we had kept the sun behind Galadriel, almost acting as a halo for her, while then lighting Elrond directly with the shadows of the tree branches playing off of his face, showing a bit of that internal conflict within him, we would not only have a more natural and authentic looking scene, but one that's more dramatic. Lastly, let's take a look at the coronation scene in Lindon. This scene has the same inconsistent lighting pattern, with the primary source for the scene established as coming from the right side, but then showing us the exact opposite on the close-ups, having it now come from the left. However, this scene has an additional problem: the inclusion of ECUs, or extreme close-ups, of Galadriel's eyes. It's a well-photographed image in isolation, but like I already covered in my previous videos on this shot, just from the trailer alone, its uninspired nature leaves it feeling kind of empty. And finally, seeing the shot in the context of the scene just reaffirms that. Instead of trying to cram in one more visual tie-in to the original trilogy, if the filmmakers had let the scene play out in just slightly wider angles and omitted these close-ups on her eyes, it actually would have given greater drama to the scene, as we would have been able to see the full range of Galadriel's expressions during these important moments for her character. The show just seems to be the embodiment of style without substance. Well, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this, and let me know down in the comments, what did you think of the Rings of Power?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.